creating basic shapes. So we're going to look at some of the very basic shapes that we can create with Illustrator. I'm going to go into the tool bar here and select where you see the square. Here we find the rectangle tool, underneath of it the rounded rectangle, the ellipse, polygon, star tool, and a flare tool. So I am going to tear this off so that we see each of those icons. It'll be a little easier for us. So remember that we're in a vector world. We're dealing with vector graphics. They are resolution independent. Vector graphics are made of anchor points, line segments, and paths. So let's take a look at some of these basic shapes. There are two ways that you can draw a shape. So if I select the rectangle tool, remember I can tell that it's selected because there's a darkened box around it. So with the rectangle tool, I can either, number one, just click on the artboard, a single click. Don't click and drag, just a single click. What happens is I get my rectangle dialog box that will pop up, and here I can determine if I know a specific size that I want this to be, I can enter that in. Now it's in pixels right now because that's my general unit of measurement. If I don't know how many pixels it's going to be, but instead I know it's 2 inches, I can type 2 and then IN for inches, press my tab key to move to the second box, and do the same here. And so here you can tell that because I'm typing 2 inches, and I'm going to press tab, it's equaling 144 pixels because there are 72 pixels per inch. So when I have 2 inches, that double the 72 and I get 144. So I click OK, and there's my box. So my 2 inch by 2 inch box. Remember, I can turn on my rulers, Control R. My rulers right now are not in a unit that I might recognize. They're in pixels. So if I move them to inches, here we can see that if I were to measure this up, this is a 2 inch by 2 inch square. So that's the first way, by just clicking on the artboard. And I can keep doing that. I'll click with the ellipse tool, same thing. I get a width and a height where I can enter in an amount. If I click OK, it's gonna remember the last what I left it, the way I left it the last time. The star tool, a little bit more interesting. If I click it, you're going to get a radius 1, a radius 2, and a points. So the radius 1 and radius 2 are the distance from the center point out to the most furthest out point, and then to the closer point, and then the number of points. So again, if I just leave the default here, click OK, so you can see my radius 1, my radius 2, and the number of points that I have. So that's all with just a click. All right, I'm going to go to my selection tool. I'm going to click and drag to get a marquee selection, which I touch each one of those objects, and now I can press my delete key, and they are gone. So we just made those shapes by clicking. The second way is by doing a click and a drag. Now there are all kinds of shortcut quick key type things I can press while I'm doing this. Click and press. Now while I still have my mouse down, I have not let my mouse up, I'm able to alter the shape by dragging more in a vertical way or more in a horizontal way. Okay. If I hold down my Shift key will always constrain the proportions. So now I'm constraining it. I will create a perfect square. And if I go to the ellipse tool, do the same thing, start clicking and dragging, and then press your Shift key down, I will constrain the proportions and make a perfect circle. Okay? Let's go back and click and drag again. I'm not letting up on my mouse. I hold the Shift key, makes a perfect circle. What if I'm tracing something, and as you can see, the circle does something really kind of funny because it sort of grows to the right and down as I drag. What if I start getting this in the wrong position? I hold down the space bar. So for those of you who are piano players, this might be a little easier because now I have my mouse down, my mouse is down, my Shift is down because I'm constraining the proportions. Now I'm going to add my space bar, and I can pick up my circle and relocate it, lift up on the space bar, keep down on the Shift, keep down on my mouse, and I can continue dragging. All right, we're going to add one more here. If we hold the Alt key, it now drags out from the center point. So I have Shift down, I have Alt down, I have my mouse down, and I'm going to hold down my space bar to relocate this. Let up on my space bar. Now you have to be careful in the order that you let up on this, because if I let up on my Alt key, pop, it pops. It's going to draw from the top left instead of the center. So hold down the Alt key. I want to keep it in this, coming out from the center. If I hold up on my Shift key, now I all of a sudden get an oblong type of an oval because I'm not constraining the proportions. Hold down and Shift, I'm back to constraining proportions. I need to let up on my mouse key first to make this stick. Once I let up on my mouse key, now I can let up on the Shift and the Alt, and there's my perfect circle. Another fun, which can get kind of crazy, holding down the tilde key. That little curly Q key that's right before your number 1 up on your keyboard. When I hold that, I make multiple copies. And as you can see by the blue lines here, I've got hundreds of circles here now. If I just use my selection tool and click in the middle of nowhere to deselect, kind of a cool effect, but you can see once I start moving these, I've got just a ton of circles. Just a ton of them in here. So that was that tilde key. Some fun things with the star. Let's drag, select everything, and delete. I could also do a Control A to select everything and delete. So to my star tool, now you might notice, well, I have a square and I have a circle and I have a polygon and I have a rounded rectangle, but where's my triangle? I don't have a triangle tool. Guess what? You got to use your star. Actually, you can use your polygon or you can use your star. So when I click and drag, I'm able to create whatever kind of, whirl this thing around, whatever I want to do. Now, if I hold Shift, it pops it. It constrains it. It makes it be just one direction. Okay. If I use my arrow keys, up and down arrow keys, I add points and I take away points. Now, I still have my mouse down. So I'm increasing points, decreasing points. Okay. If I hold down my Alt or my Option key, I'm able to decrease this, keeping the sides straight. You can kind of see what it's doing. Maybe if I do the next one here, if I hold down my Control key, I'm able to drag my radius, my outer radius, to be more extreme. Okay, so that's holding the Control key. Now if I go back to my Alt key, you might be able to see this. See how it straightens the sides? So it keeps the sides of the star straight. And of course, if I drag in an arc, I'm going to rotate this thing. If I hold Shift, I make it be constrained and pretty aligned. Now I'm going to let up on my mouse first to hold this. Then I let up on those modifier keys.